Hey guys, my name is Ryan.
And my name is Miska.
And welcome to HitScan. It's patch day, but there's no patch. And there's a solid reason to that, as well as a lot of other news that's happened over the past couple of weeks now. The main one, of course, stuff coming out today about the big esports stuff that's coming in 2021. But let's go over the main thing. It's meant to be patch day, Miska. Why no patch?
So Riot have shifted their focus a little bit recently in development. We're gonna talk a little bit more about that later on with, all the different map stuff and everything else that they have mentioned here and there in discussions we've had. However, in the previous patch notes on, I believe this was the 10th of November, there was a little bit of text at the start that probably a lot of people missed, as it's not that easy to spot. Just quickly says, as a heads up, it's very likely we'll skip the next patch and get back in the swing of things on or around December 8th. So don't expect a proper patch for another 2 weeks, but we may see skins, we may see other news being dropped on Twitter, and well, there's already some of that's been dropped that we're going to be talking about just a little bit later on in the video as well.
Yeah, it's mostly, I guess, to do with all of the issues that we've had with some of the patches, the new map dropping, the new agent, all whilst there's been this big First Strike tournament happening at the moment. So I can imagine on that December 8th patch that we could see, I don't know, for example, Breach getting nerfed, but they're not going to do that now.
Viper getting buffed.
Yeah, the typical stuff that we've seen at this point, right? But they're not going to do it in the middle of a tournament because there might be some teams that are really good with Viper that then suddenly become the favorites to win their region. So they're basically holding off on stuff, but I would assume that the next patch that we get is going to have twice as much in it. Like we sort of mentioned before with there being no patch, one of the reasons that caused a lot of problems was the new map Icebox. And we've spoken about it quite a lot, and so have Riot, that Icebox was a map that was meant to come out in January 2021. Because according to Morello before, we were meant to get a map every episode. So this one's a little bit early, and there was a bit more information on Riot's future plans for maps. And basically they're saying we're going to try and do as many as possible, right, Miska?
Yeah, I think it's another just really, I wouldn't even say like knee-jerk reaction. It does feel that quick though. The discussion after Icebox has basically been, right, this is good that you guys made this. It's not great. You can kind of like fix a lot of things here and we want to see improvements. But at the same time, more maps, yes please. That's been very clear. I think that's still very clear. I still feel that when playing Valorant, like compared to the choice you have of maps you either want to specialize in or queue for in a game like Counter-Strike, or just the variety of maps and how important that can be in a game like Overwatch. There's so many good examples of this, and yeah, it's a clear sort of community sentiment, community wish list, more maps. So I'm glad that's communicated straight away. They didn't really wait with communicating that. They didn't really want to hold off and then just go, 3 months from now, surprise, surprise, another map. They want to be very clear with, we hear you, we're working on this, we're trying our hardest, we're putting all the resources on it. Here's another update log from Joe Siegler's living room. So yeah, it's good stuff, really.
And I know, and I tweeted about this as well from the main HitScan Twitter account, which you should definitely follow, asking what people generally thought of the map, whether they liked it or didn't. We got a real Brexit vote. It was really close between the two, but there seems to be a big vocal outrage. I don't mind it too much. I just feel that with the little amount of maps that we have in the game, and the fact that a big focus on why Icebox was brought earlier was to have a best of 5 map pool for First Strike, if you're relying on having a 5th map, you don't bring in Vertigo from Counter-Strike, you don't bring in Nuke, you just want a straight... Don't you reckon that we're still missing maps, I suppose, like Mirage or, ironically, Cache in a couple of cases, considering Volcano worked on it. I feel that we need more set maps like Bind, like Ascent, that have their own spin, sure, but aren't as dramatic as Split is, for example, or certainly Icebox is. There's a lot of stuff going on there that I feel if you want to have the most competitive map pool, you can't necessarily go over the top like you did with Icebox, but we've kind of spoken about that before.
I think Bind kind of got there a little bit. Like when I play Bind, I can feel like, I'm really feeling a Bind game on A and just, playing around lamps, and there are certain challenges there that feel iconic enough to the layout of the map for it to be exciting. I mean, some people will, hate some of those situations, other people will love them, but they feel defining, they feel like they really define the map. there definitely have been some things like that missing, though. I think you're totally right. We don't really have like sort of an iconic layout of a particular part of a map just yet. There's the only things I can think of is you know, standing on top of certain things, that sort of vertical element that you don't really have in a game like Counter-Strike as much. So interesting sort of, I don't know, thought to have like the when are we getting maps that will feel that they become community favorites and really click with the community? Because right now there's not really like loads of those. I would say that Haven is probably the closest, but even that, like, I know some people that don't really like Haven or have played it too much or hate certain parts of the map. So tricky.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. And also just what's fun to play versus what's fun to watch is often a big thing too, right? So speaking of like the esports side of stuff, we have First Strike going on at the moment. You've got the main finals happening in December. The qualifying teams are the ones that I'm showing you on screen for at least EU and NA. Some really interesting results and some firm favourites. Cloud9 didn't actually get through. I don't know if you know, Miska. So Tenz's team didn't qualify at all. That's a pretty big loss for a team that has Tenz on it. So I'm curious to see if they're going to axe any of the players. But the 2021 stuff is the 2021 Champions Tour. And honestly, this is like worlds light. I'm genuinely surprised that we're seeing something this deep with the system. To go over it really quickly, you have the Challenger, Master, and Champion regions. The Challengers is kind of like First Strike, where you've got NA, you've got Europe, you've got Korea, for example, all of these different regions. And the best teams will then qualify to Masters, which I think are LANs. These are going to be international teams playing against each other, and it's meant to start in March. That's the thing that's ridiculous to me, considering we still feel so deep into COVID, even with like vaccines potentially on the way. I think March is cutting it close, though.
Yeah, maybe Riot just developed their own vaccine from all the Valorant profit.
I mean, they did do Worlds on LAN. Like, they did have, like, their own little bubble of stuff. But they're meant to be doing that 3 times a year. Like, you're seeing some of the graphics on screen. And, like, as somebody that's, you know, being involved in esports stuff quite a lot, it's really exciting to see. But it's also, like, this looks so ambitious. It's unreal.
It does. It does look very ambitious. And one thing that I was actually surprised about was that they went with using Challenger when that's, like, such a, you know, league-ranked term. I'm not quite sure why they thought that was a great idea, but either way, we are seeing some very interesting esports development, and I expected this at some point, just not now. I thought we were gonna get this announcement in like January, February, maybe, right? Not already, but
it's a bit weird to sort of do that through the middle. Like, we have this big finals coming up, but next year we've got a bigger event that absolutely blows this event out of the water.
Yeah,
but to sort of go over it quickly. Teams begin a journey by going through the regional challenger events, then they go to the international master events, which, as you can see on screen, are meant to be relatively frequent with 3 of them total. And then at the end of the year, we effectively get Worlds for Valorant, which again is going to be pretty ridiculous.
Oh, that's so hype. There's
so many other like organizations that aren't in the game yet that I assume now that they've seen this are going to be like, hey, unsigned
it's
team,
time.
where Astralis, how you doing? Like, and meanwhile, or Fnatic, those kind of teams that haven't really been involved. Like, it's just crazy. Usually we don't talk too much about the esports side of stuff, but I think this is Riot again, you know, on the Riot juice doing some pretty ambitious stuff.
Yeah, we know how esports have really shaped games like Counter-Strike, for example, in not just the way that the game is played and the people watch or spectate or follow esports, or maybe don't even play that often and just follow esports, but also on like the whole, cosmetics level, updates, big patches, you know, before and after. There's a lot of things that sort of play into it and can play into the different timings as well. I'm interested what they're thinking in terms of, you know, bringing in new maps, where they're gonna do that. Maybe we're gonna get a little bit almost more of like a predictable format or predictable way of them doing that. And especially when you think about how Counter-Strike handled their majors and, you know, what they do with the game around then, and also what Valorant can do in terms of esports. There's a lot of potential there, not just in terms of Valorant esports development, but also how this can affect, you know, the cadence of updates and just generally how the game plays.
In regards to like other news, there's smaller stuff going on at the moment too. There was an Ask Valorant last week, which was fairly straightforward that we'll be getting tournament clients for the esports scene, probably going along with all of the stuff that we mentioned with the Champions series that's coming in 2021. You might be able to transfer hundreds of dollars worth of skins if you won the Ion giveaway, for example, and you want to move it. You move to America, for example, from Europe. You'll be able to maybe transfer your stuff over in some cases. They're still looking at that. There's a lot of, maybe we'll see answers coming out of this Ask Valorant, so we didn't highlight it at the time, but in case you missed it, it's on screen. It's also linked in the description below.
This one definitely felt a lot more like it was just for, hey, we're hearing you on these issues, not necessarily, hey, here's a fix for this problem. Which is, you know, always the more boring Ask Valorant, but at the same time, it's so much worse if they just leave those questions up in the air in the community. So, still, good stuff, nice silver lining to it. Things are being looked at, addressed, and heard.
Speaking of things that I hope are addressed and heard soon, is that Tens has found, we mentioned it before with the First Strike stuff, he seems to have found a really fun way to be playing around the Phantom by full running whilst firing and actually having a lot of impact. We've got some clips on screen and it's just, I hope that this gets looked at soon. I feel like it's been a bit of an oversight. It's more funny than anything. I don't think you're going to inherently see any players really doing this in tournament, but the fact that you could be so accurate and so powerful whilst just sprinting around at that point is something, alongside jumping right clicks, that I hope does get looked in. Jumping right clicks with the classic, I mean, because both of those seem a bit too impactful for what they are.
It's funny how that's already been like a discussion, you know, the jumping right clicks. Like that already feels like an old thing in a way for Valorant, like an old discussion that's been going on for a while. So yeah, well, we'll see where that ends up. But yeah, these are exactly the sort of things that where I feel like, you know, either other games or people just playing Valorant will look at this and clip this and kind of go, you know,
this is not a good look. Counter-Strike would never do this.
Yeah, like they put that next to the whole, you know, Valorant like esports plan, right? And it's just kind of like, you know, guys, come on, fix this game. And it sort of fuels that whole crowd that just goes, you know, can you just fix the game, lol? When in reality, it's really hard to pin down exactly what that is. But when you have an issue like this and it's so concrete and it's so clear and easy to just share in a video like this, you really gotta jump on addressing this ASAP. So hopefully they are. Hopefully it's not you know, too big of a discussion. I know they said in the past, like, oh, we're not Counter-Strike, we're gonna have some different rules, we're not gonna work exactly the same way, you are gonna be able to move and shoot a little bit, but yeah, this is clearly a bit ridiculous, but oh well.
A bit too much separating it. In regards to skins that usually come out with patches, I don't think we're getting anything new, but I also just realized that the Wastelander skins haven't been out yet, so maybe that's what we get this week, right? It's hard to know. Things have been shifted around because of the weird 1.10 patch that got reverted, or the 1.11 one, sorry, that got reverted back. So I think the weeks and the cadence of content is a little bit mismatched currently, but I'm sure that'll fix itself, certainly going into the new year where there's going to be a bit of a break. But yeah, it's been a while since we made a last video. We have the patch that's supposed to be coming out today. It didn't, as we went over, but there's still lots of news to cover. We have had a bit of a change in how we're doing content at the moment because Miska's doing some cool gaming stuff.
Yeah, if you want to follow that or any updates on me, then you can check out my Twitter at Miska_. And if you want to follow the channel and you're not already, a lot of you aren't subbed, then please hit that sub button and the bell as well, because yeah, there's an awful lot of you guys watching our videos that are not subscribed, and we want to change that. We want to, you know, be that next 100 mil channel one day.
Yeah, the Mr. Beast of Valorant. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. But yeah, it's quiet at the moment. There's no patch. It's midway into an act, so I'm sure the oncoming storm, which is going to be episode 2, will be here eventually. So do keep an eye out for that, as well as future patches. But thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Goodbye.